What does a memory look like? Maybe it's different for everyone. I guess in that respect, the idea of trying to pinpoint what a memory really looks like is kind of like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. As soon as you start to try and think of how a memory actually looks in your mind's eye, it kind of starts to slip away and morph into something else. But with that being said, I do think there are some ways to try and take memory-like shots. And I know technically all photos are memories. They're all a snapshot of something that happened in the past tense. But I'm not talking about taking photos that are memories. I'm thinking about taking photos that look like memories, the way we see them in our little pea brains. So yeah, what does a memory look like? Well, let's start off with the kind of angles we shoot. Because I think the weird thing about memories is it's like the way we see things in our mind's eye is strange sometimes. You know, it could be from a really weird low angle, or like a childlike angle, or from like a bird's eye view or something like that. So maybe trying to play around with going low as if you're a child, or really like close into the person that you're shooting or the thing that you're shooting. Also having a horizon line that isn't in line, which is obviously a classical thing in photography. Always make sure your horizon line is straight. But when it comes to memories, they're so fleeting sometimes and so imperfect that actually having a kind of crooked frame fits that sort of vibe. I think these kinds of shots can work so well in this style because they can almost feel like a glimpse, like you almost open your eyes for 1,000th of a second in someone else's body. Christ, did I really just say that? That is just literally what a photo is. But anyway, I think you get me. The weirdness of the frame, the imperfection of it is really something that adds to that memory-like vibe as far as I'm concerned. And similar to that, we've got focal lengths. And I think that the way we play around with certain focal lengths can really go hand in hand with this sort of memory-like feel. But the thing is, most big daddies who are using these super long lenses are using them to shoot a hoary puff leg or a fluffy back tit babbler from miles away. So, you know, fair dues. But when we look at photographers like Saul Leiter, he used a long lens in a very different way. And I think it is something that's really useful if we're trying to take these kind of weird memory-like, I can't say memory without just dropping loads of letters, memory-like photos. What Saul did so well was to really shoot in close quarters rather than shooting something that's far away. He was overlapping a load of layers and just adding to that feel of disreality, because the long lens compresses everything so much. So all of a sudden, you know, a car window frame and a person are very close in the frame because of what the long lens does. Whereas if you just shot that with a 35mm lens, it would still probably be a nice photo, but it wouldn't have that feeling of disreality. And if we think about the way we see our memories, the subject can often be really big in our mind, and everything else that's going on around it could just be completely insubstantial. Or in another weird way, we might be focused on a small detail in our memory and not be able to remember anything else. So definitely the long lens in close quarters can have a really big impact on creating that kind of unsettling or weird kind of feeling in your photographs, and obviously using those layers. And that's where the next thing comes in. But first, I've got the perfect presets for you if you want to take these memory-like, dreamy kind of photos. And the best thing about them is they're completely free. Just go down to the link in the description, sign up on there, you'll get some free presets. Whether you shoot film or digital, I've got both. and they can go on your film scans in Lightroom, they can go on your raw files in Lightroom for your digital files, and they'll look really good, I think. But anyway, the next thing is one of my favorite things in photography, and I think it's really impactful when it comes to this memory-like vibe. And that is the use of an out of focus foreground or an out of focus subject. Sometimes in a memory, all we remember is the location and we can't even remember the person in front of it anymore. That's where the out of focus subject comes in. You don't need to go all the way down to f1.8, you can use f3.5 if you want. They don't have to be like so blurry that it just doesn't make any sense. But what it does do is, again, creates this sense of disreality. It makes a photo that doesn't make that much sense. It makes us question, like, why is the subject out of focus? Why is the background much more important than the subject, or whatever? This can be a lot more effective if you're using slightly longer lenses. So if you're using 50mm and above, it can be more impactful. Well, but I still use 35mm lenses and do this technique quite often, and I really like the results. So it's good whatever you do. Alternatively though, you don't necessarily have to have your subject out of focus in the foreground. You could have something else out of focus in the foreground. You could be framing a subject and have like the walls either side be out of focus, or, you know, something else out of focus in the foreground. I think these out of focus sections can be really impactful though, because they don't look real or they don't look right sometimes in the image. And again, it's that imperfection of what a memory feels like. But anyway, next up, I've got another one of my favorite techniques in photography. I'm talking about slow shutter speeds. Oh boy, I love them. But I'm not talking about those 30-second crazy long exposures where you get like silky waterfalls or whatever. I'm not dissing you. If you enjoy doing that, it's fine. It's fun. Photography's fun. But I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is what I like to think of as the sweet spot of slow shutter speed photography. Somewhere between half a second and 60th of a second, depending on how fast your subject is moving and how close you are to it. It can take a little bit of time to find the exact right spot with slow shutter speeds, but that is part of the fun of it as well. You know, sometimes you'll kind of bracket it, which is like, I don't know if that's necessarily the exact right word, but where you'll, you know, I'll do like 15th of a second, then maybe 30th of a second, maybe 10th of a second. And then I know like one of those is probably going to be about what I wanted. My favorite way of using these is by having most of the scene be like clear and normal, and then one thing that's moving fast or a few things that's moving fast through the frame. Oh my God. Through the frame, they are blurry because, you know, they're moving quickly. I use that quite a lot with vehicles or, you know, people running or cyclists or whatever, because they're moving quickly enough. But if you want to get inventive, then you can do quite a few different ways as well. So you could use, you know, you could do a panning shot. So where something's moving across like in front of you, and then rather than you keeping the camera still, you follow it as you press the shutter. Or you could do stuff where like you're in something that's moving, so maybe you're in a vehicle, a train, a car, whatever, and you take a photo out of the window as you're moving, and therefore like because you're moving quickly, and you can use slow shutter speeds and it looks really cool. And once again, I just think it's like that imperfection, the strangeness, the blur, that's kind of just how memories feel sometimes. Sometimes it's just like a load of emotions meshed together and like a few little images. Well, finally, I want to talk about some editing, this is all in my free presets anyway. So if you've got them, then you're going to have this in there. But this is something that you can do to instantly add that sort of slight feeling of like, oh, there's something a little bit different about this, but I'm not sure what it is. And that is a reduction in clarity. You can also use Gaussian blur in Photoshop, but it's just a bit of a drawn out process. It probably does look a bit better, but I like to use a slight reduction in clarity on pretty much all of my photos. This just gives like that slightly soft feeling, but it's not overpowering, it's not taking over the image, and it's not not making sense. And I genuinely think this is kind of the cherry on the cake, cherry on top. Cherries are nice anyway, so it's a nice thing. But it just gives that like indescribable feel to your shots. Like, oh, I can feel that there's something slightly different. You don't have to stop there. Of course, you can do more with your editing. You can, increase, like mess around with your HLCL sliders, mess around with your color grading. I like to put, a bit of blues in the shadows, or sometimes even greens. I sometimes like to use greens in the shadows, and I sometimes like to do reds in the highlights, but it's a very fine balance. If you go too far with either of those in certain scenes, it's not going to look right. The typical thing is to go for the blues in the shadows and for the oranges in the highlights or midtones, just depending on what your scene is like. Those little things will all go together to make your photos kind of look and feel like memories. And even if that's not what you want to achieve and you're not bothered about that, all of these techniques are really good. You can use them all individually if you want to. Try them out, have a little play with them, see what you think. So there you have it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe no one's memories even look anything like that. I guess we'll never know until they make some AI tool that can extract memories from you. And by that point, this will all just be a distant memory. Right? Either way, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Drop a comment. Obviously, subscribe. That would be really nice. Things have been real quiet on this channel for a little while because I've been working really hard on something. And now I'm back. This is me being back right now. It's happening. There's going to be regular videos for a month at least. And it's going to be fun. I'm excited. But yeah, write a comment, subscribe, do a little dance in your corner shop. Have fun. Have a great week. I hope you do. And if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. You could listen to We Like to Move It. That's a good one. That gets you going. Take care. I'll see you soon.